You've heard of Big Ben and Stonehenge, but what about a cursed lake in Wales or a seaside village swallowed by the sea? In the next few minutes, I'm revealing 10 hidden gems in the UK that only locals know about, and they'll change the way you see this country. Welcome to Beyond the Map, where we uncover the world's best-kept travel secrets. If you love off-the-radar locations and places that feel like they're straight out of a fantasy book, hit that subscribe and bell. Your next adventure starts now. What if I told you there's a lake in Wales so eerie, early poets believed it was a portal to hell? Hidden high in the rugged heart of Snowdonia, Llyn Idwal sits surrounded by jagged cliffs and swirling mist, a place that feels carved straight out of ancient legend. It lies in a glacial valley called Llyn Idwal, just a short walk from Ogwen Cottage. At 370 meters above sea level, this lake is framed by crumbling stone walls and steep ridges, including the infamous Devil's Kitchen, a gash in the cliffs that exhales mist like a sleeping beast. Legend says nothing grows on the ground around it, a cursed patch of earth where time stands still. Hikers still say they feel watched here. Locals, they just nod and don't say much, but the beauty is undeniable. Crystal clear water, mossy boulders, reflections so perfect. They look painted, and a silence so complete it hums. Pro tip: go at dawn. Fog rolls across the lake like ghostly fingers, and if you're lucky, you'll have the whole place to yourself. Climb up to the Devil's Kitchen for a view that'll stop your breath, and the best part? Most tourists never make it here, but once you do, you'll never forget it. From a glacier-carved lake in the Welsh mountains, we follow ancient paths southwest, into England's mystical heartland, where waterfalls carry whispers of old Celtic legends. Locals say this forest has healing powers, and once you hear the waterfall, you might believe them. Tucked deep in the woodlands near Tintagel, Cornwall, lies St. Nectan's Glen, a fairy tale ravine where moss-covered stones and ancient trees hide a magical secret. The heart of the Glen is a 60-foot waterfall that crashes through a perfect circular hole in the rock. It looks man-made, but it's entirely natural. Water thunders down into a shallow basin surrounded by ivy, and offerings tied to nearby branches. It's named after Saint Nectan, a 6th century monk who was said to live in a hermit cell above the falls. Pilgrims still come here, not for photos, but for peace. They leave behind crystals, ribbons, even handwritten notes, believing the Glen listens. Birdsong echoes off the wet stone, ferns sway in the filtered light, and time disappears here. Pro tip: visit after a gentle rain, when the falls are in full voice. Wear boots, the trail gets muddy, and bring an open mind. This place feels different. And why visit? Because in a world full of noise, St. Nectan's Glen whispers. Now we head north, beyond the mainland, to a windswept isle where water runs clearer, and magic hides in the shadows of the mountains. They say the water here is so clear, it looks like glass poured from the sky, but only the brave dare to swim in it. On the Isle of Skye, beneath the shadow of the Black Quillan Mountains, lie the fairy pools, a chain of crystal-clear waterfalls and natural basins carved into volcanic rock. It's a 20-minute hike from the Glen Brittle car park, but every step takes you deeper into a landscape that feels enchanted. Emerald moss, tumbling falls, and pools so translucent you can see pebbles glittering on the bottom. Legend says fairies once bathed here under moonlight, and standing beside the icy blue water, you might just believe it. But don't let the serenity fool you. This water is glacier-fed, and colder than you think. Wild swimmers come for the thrill. Photographers come for the colors. And travelers, they come because it doesn't feel real. Pro tip: visit just after sunrise or at golden hour. You'll miss the tour buses and catch the pools glowing turquoise in soft light. And if you're bold enough to dive in, bring a wetsuit or serious courage. Why it matters: Because the fairy pools aren't just beautiful. They're otherworldly. Like stepping into a dream you didn't know you had. But not all stories flow above ground. Some are swallowed by time and tide. And in one quiet corner of England, an entire town has vanished beneath the sea. What if I told you there's a medieval city in England that's now buried beneath the sea? Once known as the capital of East Anglia, Dunwich was a bustling port town in the 11th century, home to thousands, with grand churches and busy markets. Today, it's a quiet coastal village, because most of it is underwater. Centuries of coastal erosion swallowed nearly the entire city. Storms in the 13th century tore through the coastline, dragging entire streets into the sea. It's now known as Britain's Atlantis, a ghost city beneath the waves. All that remains are ruins in the cliffs, a few gravestones clinging to the edge, and a small village museum telling stories of what once was. Stand on the shore, and you'll feel it, the silence, the weight of lost history, the sense that something enormous is missing. Pro tip, walk the cliffs at low tide, and listen. Locals say on stormy nights, church bells still echo from beneath the sea. Why it matters? Because Dunwich isn't just a place, it's a warning. A haunting reminder that nature always reclaims its own, from drowned cities to haunted hills. Our next stop takes us to the Holy Mountain, a place split by legend and soaked in myth. They call it the Holy Mountain, but its past is anything but pure. Rising alone on the edge of the Black Mountains in Wales, the Skirrid, or Skirrid Fawr, stands like a jagged spine against the sky. Locals whisper that it was split by God himself after a betrayal during the crucifixion. At 486 meters tall, it's not the highest peak, but it's soaked in legend. Some say the devil scratched its side. Others say the mountain mourns, for the hundreds hanged at its summit gallows during the Norman era. Even the soil is said to hold power. It was once collected and sprinkled in coffins to bless the dead. But dark stories aside, the view from the top, breathtaking. Rolling green hills stretch for miles in every direction. It's raw, untamed, and feels older than time. Pro tip, climb it during golden hour. The light turns the hills to fire and the long shadows make the legends feel alive. Why it matters? Because the Skirrid isn't just a mountain, it's a monument to myth, memory, and the thin line between beauty and fear. But if you think myths live only on mountaintops, think again. Deep in the woods of England, something stranger stirs. Step inside, and you'll see why Tolkien, Lucas, and J.K. Rowling all came here for inspiration. In the heart of the Forest of Dean, Puzzlewood is a tangled, moss-draped maze of twisted trees, gnarled roots, and ancient stone paths. It feels like a fantasy set, because it is. This surreal woodland has starred in Star Wars, Doctor Who, and even Harry Potter. But long before Hollywood, locals believed fairies and druids lived beneath its canopy. The terrain is strange. Narrow ravines, sudden cliffs, hidden caves. The forest floor is blanketed in green and the silence, unsettling. It's easy to get turned around, or lost. Roman coins were once found buried here. Some say there's more, if you know where to look. Go on a weekday morning when the mist still lingers. Bring waterproof shoes. The paths can get slick. And take your time. You'll see more by wandering than by rushing. Why it matters? Because Puzzlewood doesn't just look like a storybook. It is one, still being written beneath the moss and magic. From tangled trees to architectural dreams, our next hidden gem feels like you stepped into Italy. But somehow, you're still in Wales. Imagine stumbling across an Italian village in the middle of coastal Wales. Welcome to Portmeirion, a surreal pastel-colored dream built into the cliffs of North Wales. Designed by Sir Clough Williams-Ellis in the early 20th century, this isn't a movie set. It's a real village, part Riviera, part storybook, and completely unexpected. Domes, towers, and candy-colored facades peek through subtropical gardens. Palm trees sway near Georgian arches, and classical music drifts through the air like you're walking through a dream curated by Wes Anderson. It's been a haven for artists, poets, and eccentrics for nearly a century, and if it looks familiar, it might be. This is where they filmed The Prisoner, one of Britain's most iconic cult TV series. Pro tip: stay overnight in one of the village's boutique rooms. After the day tourists leave, the village becomes your private cinematic playground. Sunset here? Unreal. Why it matters? Because Portmeirion proves that fantasy isn't just found in fiction. Sometimes you can walk right into it. Imagine 365 stone steps, hand-carved into a cliffside, plunging down to a forgotten harbor, where only the sea and silence remain. Tucked along the wild northeastern coast of Scotland lies Whaligoe, a place so remote you won't believe it's real until you stand there, wind-whipping, waves crashing far below. The Whaligoe steps were built in the 18th century by local women and fishermen who carried barrels of herring up and down this vertical path every day. That's right, by hand. No roads, no cranes, just grit. Today, the steps are slippery, windswept, and haunting. They zigzag down 250 feet to a narrow cove, a collapsed harbor where seabirds nest in the rocks and ghosts of history cling to the sea spray. Pro tip: wear hiking boots and go early. You'll have the place to yourself, just you, the gulls, and a stairway to Scotland's soul. Why it matters? Because Whaligoe reminds us that beauty isn't always easy to reach, but the effort makes it unforgettable. And finally, we step into a village where time stands still. Our last stop isn't a ruin, it's a memory preserved in stone. If you want to know what 1600 Scotland looked like, just walk into Culross. Nothing's changed. On the edge of the Firth of Forth sits Culross, a perfectly preserved medieval village that looks like it's been frozen in amber. Cobblestone lanes, ochre-colored houses, iron lanterns, no neon, no modern signage, just pure, timeless atmosphere. Founded in the 6th century and thriving during the 1600s, Culross was a major port and salt mining town. Today, it's a living museum, so authentic, it's been featured in Outlander as 1700s Inverness. The gardens behind Culross Palace bloom with forgotten herbs and ancient roses. Local legends still swirl about witches, smugglers, and secret tunnels beneath the town square. Pro tip: visit midweek for the quietest streets. Don't skip the Culross Abbey ruins above town. The views at sunset are cinematic, and stop by Bessie's Cafe for tea and stories. Why it matters? Because Culross doesn't just show you history, it lets you live it. One slow, cobbled step at a time. So, how many of these places have you heard of before today? Let me know which one surprised you the most in the comments. And if you want to keep discovering hidden gems from around the world, our next stop is Canada. And trust me, you've never seen it like this. Hit subscribe and check the description for links and bonus content. Safe travels.